Okay. So first, of course, first I will ask everyone if they can hear us, because sometimes it's always about the audio.
Do I have to reload or something? Oh, no. Okay. Jesus Christ, you're using that. Are we live?
Yeah, I think we're live. If you have a video, if you have a live stream turned on, I suggest that you lower the volume, or just like
no, I'll just mute it. Yeah,
mute it all the way.
Hello.
Okay, so no echo now. So just let me ask everyone, can you hear us? And Jan, you can say something.
Hey, hello. If you can see me, then there's something wrong here. Then there's somebody spying on you, on me.
So okay, they can hear us. Are we loud enough? I can't believe this is like a win-win situation for me, because this is the second time in a row that everything is okay with audio. So
yeah, you're getting the hang of it.
I don't know what's going on. This is not the the Bunica, the IFCC project that I'm used to. So. Okay.
Break something. Okay.
So yeah, here we are. Today's guest is Jan. I know that you all know about him and have seen his works and everything. So yeah, welcome, Jan.
Hey, nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no, don't mention it. So I met, just to give you this small short introduction, I met Jan, of course, online first, by recommendation. So the first event that we did before the first IFCC, that was like in 2014, when our guests were Ben Mauro and Von Ling and David Bentley and Hasan Bayramovic and some other guys. Ben recommended you for the next year for the first IFCC,
right,
along with Justin Goby Fields and some other guys. So when we started doing like this Skype calls and talking about what will be going on at the event, I came up with this the Business of Art panel, and so Jan should have been there among other guests. So in the end, it was Ben Mauro and Mike Hill and Justin Fields, but actually Justin jumped in because you weren't able to come that year and the next year, but then you did appear in, I think, 2017. So this is how we met.
Yeah, I think the first year there was something, I don't know, something was up. The second year my kids were born, so I couldn't make it. But then finally 2017, yeah.
So before we start, of course, it's time for the promotional messages. So I just want to share with you that the early bird tickets for the next IFCC are now available. You can go to the IFCC website and check the price and other information. So far we have announced 4 speakers, 4 demo artists, or 4 teachers. I'm never sure how to call them, because it's not easy to find one word to describe their involvement in the festival. but definitely go and check. We start on May 25th. We're back in Split, so for the second time in Split, beautiful coastal town in Croatia. We have moved 1 month earlier, so last year it was June, and now it's May, the end of May. So because some of our guests, especially those from the north, like Germany, Sweden, and I don't know, they were complaining about the heat, so we as good organizers have decided, to move the event back to May, as it was in the past while it was happening in Zagreb. So it's in May. It will be like it will be, the temperature will be acceptable for our northern friends, and 6 days. The number of seats is limited because IFCC, when it comes to size, is not what it used to be. So we have limited ourselves to theater with 145 or 150 seats. So it's more like cozier, more like family-friendly atmosphere. Then I'll just jump to remind everyone that our other projects are also being developed or have been developed already and available for you. So I want to mention the Bunica.net website. It's our community website. If you go there, you will see a lot of familiar names from the world of art, art, games, art, films, art, and whatnot. Then we have bunica.org website, and I may have mentioned this in the past. It's a website that gathers like only professional artists. So let me just show you some of them. So here you can see just some of the names. Currently we have like maybe 55 profiles. So like everyone can submit, their pro page, but in this case, unlike Bunica.net, which is a community website that I mentioned, in this case, we only approve those who are like really professionals with a high quality artworks. So, and of course, for others, it's the motivation to get there. The purpose of this website, I just want to make clear, because in recent weeks I was asked like so many times, like, is this another art station? And no, it's not another art station. Our intention is not to replace art station, because this is just a professional, the directory of professional artists. So, and that's what it is. You have like a name, link to the website, which very often is linked to the ArtStation portfolio. Few examples of your work, only limited to 6, and some information about what you do. And this is the form to get in touch with so the client can get in touch with you, and that's all there is to. You can upload unlimited number of artworks here like you can with ArtStation. You can write blogs, you can put products. There is no store or anything like that, so no art prints. So, and the last one that I want to mention is our IFCC Academy website. It's a learning platform with courses, and also we have recently we have added the recordings from the last IFCC, so you can go and check the IFCC Academy website as well. And now, when I'm done with all this, we can go back to our guest, Jan, and ask him to introduce himself a bit better and talk about, to start with his like early career, and then we can move on to questions. And and so on. Yeah. Welcome, Jan, again.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure you're done. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, IFCC is a lot of fun. It's a really lovely place and very happening. Cool. Okay, so I don't know, where do I start? I have anything but a
where you come
straightforward.
from? Where were you born? That kind of stuff.
Jesus, man, you really want to start at the beginning.
Yeah, but I'll cut you.
I'll keep it short. Keep it short to the important things, right? So I was actually born in Germany. Small town, nothing spectacular there. Lots of cows, lots of places to play around as a kid in the fields, and I was far away from the big city. So there was nothing really like spectacularly like art focused, I think, until way later. So just a very typical like average German like kindergarten, primary school, high school. I was not one of those prodigies. I was not particularly interested in art or anything. I got okay grades in high school in art, but who doesn't, right? I didn't have any particular like was like, oh my gosh, I can only have a pencil in my hand and draw, and that's all I do or whatever. Nothing like that.
So when did art virus hit you?
I don't know. I was I really don't. I don't have that. Nostalgia about drawing or anything.
You just want to make money.
Yeah, sure. That's why I became an artist, right? That makes a lot of sense. No, it was. I think it was an interest in movies. I think that got me first hooked. And I mean, my dad had lots of like VHS tapes at home where he like recorded like all like those like sci-fi movies from TV, and often I didn't want to go out, so I was just like sitting at home and like secretly watching like Terminator and Alien or whatever when I was like 12 years old, and that was really interesting to me. And also slowly, like I think when I was about like 13, 14, like the internet kind of came around in Germany in the mid 90s, and also like I played more with the computer that my dad had, so I started playing video games. But again, more like consuming rather than thinking like, oh, I want to make my own spaceships, like nothing like that. And then the anime wave hit with like Dragon Ball in Germany also in the mid 90s, and I got really interested into that. And then by the time I was graduating from high school, I had no clue what to do. So no idea whatsoever, right? I was mildly interested in photography, so I was like, hey, let's go to a photography school. But of course, if you're just mildly interested, it doesn't really get you in the door because you have to have a good entrance portfolio. So I, of course, failed, and I was like, hey, I like anime, I like Japanese, so let's just like learn Japanese in university until I can apply for the photography school again, because I really had no idea. And then I liked Japanese so much that I actually have a master's degree in Japanese now. Mm-hmm. That took some time. And at the same time, there's always these two parallel things, right? So at the one time I was really into like academics. I read like hundreds of books. Tens of thousands of pages of stuff about Japanese culture and history, whatever. At the same time, I also, again, downloaded a copy of like Photoshop, I don't know, 4 or whatever was available back then, and started teaching myself. Because it was like the .com boom, and everybody was doing something about websites with like Front Page and Dreamweaver and all that crap. And
Macromedia Dreamweaver.
Yeah, Macromedia Dreamweaver. Yes. Microsoft Front Page. Oh my God, that was just like, I don't know what that was. And so I taught myself that because I don't know, like I guess I was also reading a lot of comic books. We had a lot of French and Belgian comic books, nothing like Marvel, DC at all. It was all like Mobius and Tintin and all that kind of stuff that I was reading. Again, but I was consuming all of that. I was not thinking like, oh, I want to draw these. And then for some reason, though, I got into like web design. And then I got a job, and I was working in a web agency in Munich while I was studying. And then I got hold of some Gnomon DVDs, and of course, I followed them, and I couldn't do it because how should I be able to do it? And I think it took me until I was almost 30 to really realize that I do need to do something about that converging interests of like comic books and video games and movies and some sort of like urge to not necessarily draw. Like for me, the drawing part was never really like that huge, or like the painting part. I think it was always about having an idea and expressing it in some way. And of course, it was always the most interesting to create something for these cool like sci-fi movies and fantasy movies and movies in general. That led me ultimately to find out like, okay, what job does actually do this kind of work? Because I had no idea about concept art or anything, right? I just
what year was that?
That was, I think, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I found a school in Singapore where I was living at the time, and went there and did a crash course basically for 1 year, and then I jumped into LucasFilm, who just luckily had a position open by the time I was graduating.
Did the school have to do anything with you getting this job, or did you just apply?
I there was a grad show, and one guy came to have a look, and I got his name card. But I actually got the position through a friend who was a producer there. There was just a position opening because one of the other guys.
You were recommended from the inside.
Yeah. I had even though I had a tiny bit of an inside scoop, it still took me like 3 months of like persistently like emailing everyone to like get their shit together and like give me the job. Because it didn't just happen like that, right? It is not like they like hired me and they ran after me and they really wanted me. No, nothing like that. I was just annoying them so much until I think they gave up. I said like, okay, fine, you can come. I have no idea, right? So that's kind of how it went. And from there, I just like one job after the other, and then I went freelance at some point, and here we are. Yeah.
So this happened in you got your first job in 2009, 2010.
Yeah, 2010, I think. 2010.
Yeah. So since you're a freelance concept designer now, how long did you work for? For that studio, and when did you become a freelancer?
I think 2013 was that. I freelance basically right out of school, mm-hmm. On the side all the time, because it's really like we can go into like recommendations right away. Like I would not recommend anyone to start freelancing right off the bat. Mm-hmm. It's a very bad idea, mm-hmm. Unless you're like the most talented, incredible guy in the universe, and even then. I think I would still recommend you to go into a studio. So I think I was at Lucasfilm for like two years, and then another couple of months, another year or so at Ubisoft, and then I was like, okay, that's enough. I want to do my own thing.
So what you mentioned previously makes a lot of sense, and we did say something similar in many of our streams, that it's really good idea, to go work in a studio. The bigger the better when it comes to understanding about the organization and doing things on time and depending on team and team depending on you and so on. But can you just share some insights, like what you find positive about working in a studio and what are the negative aspects?
Well, the
positive is, from your perspective, of course.
Yeah, sure. I mean, just like what you said, right? It's very important because most likely, I mean, you're new, you just maybe graduated from school, or you were just self-taught, but you don't really know anything but working by yourself. So what you need to learn is that you're not alone, right? Unless you're going to be like a fine artist, or you're going to be like you're just going to sell your own stuff, then it's you need to understand that the industry you're working in, the industry that a concept artist works in, is a massive industry, and nobody can go it alone. It's always a team effort, and often like you work in a team with like 1,000 people. And you need to understand that you're not alone, that you depend on other people, and that other people depend on you. And yeah, like what you said, you have to get used to working under deadlines. You have to work under specific instruction of the art director. You have to learn about punctuality, about consistency, about dependability, and all these kind of things. It's not only about you sitting there, headphones on, your hoodie on, and just do art like 10 hours a day, every day. It doesn't work like that, right? It's not like that. And the more you realize that you need to interact with people, and you need to learn how to interact with people, you need to learn, God forbid, you need to learn office politics, right? To survive, to get ahead. All these things are very, very useful for you to learn, especially if you're young. And to really understand what design means. Design means giving solutions. Design means giving variations, iterations. You need to learn how to take feedback. A lot of people can't take it. They don't know what to do with it. They get angry or whatever, right? You need to, and then also what's very important for your future career, whether you want to freelance, whether you want to move to a different studio, is networking. You need to build up, you need to start somewhere, right? Nobody has a network right from the get-go. And the network relationships is the absolute key to success in anywhere, in any industry. As a banker, as a lawyer, as a dentist, you cannot survive without recommendations, relationships, and a network. So you need to start building that. You need to learn how to, well, be nice, be friends, be friendly to art directors, producers, other people. Build your network, because you never know, right? I mean, people are crying always that companies like shut down, especially in the video game industry. Like that happens every day. But actually, a studio shutting down might not be so bad, because all these people are going to go to different companies, and if they remember that you are a nice guy and you are dependable and fun to hang out with and really good at art, then they're going to recommend you to somewhere else, right? I still get so many recommendations from people I worked with almost 10 years ago, and it's really, really important that you learn that nobody can go it alone in this industry, or in any industry, and be successful, right?
So the one thing that you mentioned was like deadlines, which means a lot of pressure. Was that among the reasons why you decided to leave the studio?
I mean, as a freelancer, you have even more deadlines.
Yeah, of course.
No, that never goes away, and I mean I think pretty much the only golden rule is that you never miss a deadline. You just never ever do that. The thing is, though, like for me, going into or starting with a studio was not that dramatic of a difference because I already had 10 years experience working in studios, not as a concept artist, but as a designer, 3D artist, graphic designer, that kind of stuff. So there was nothing really different about me joining there. It was just like, oh, okay, there's another office, another pantry, another stuff, another, like, nothing different. The reason why I went freelance, I'm the kind of guy who doesn't like to work on projects for a long amount of time. I realized that when I was working in a lot of studios, that like by the time like I was on a project for like 3 or 4 months, I'm like, okay, I had enough of this. I was always asking my AD to like, can you please put me on a different project? And usually with a bit of nagging, that always happened. So I was always jumping around, and that really was what I enjoyed the most. And I couldn't understand my colleagues who were just like working on one project for like 2 years. So yeah, I knew I needed that like constant change, the constant challenge to do something different. And at that point also, I was doing a lot of freelance on the side already, right? And there was that point, there was that breaking point for me when with jobs that I was doing at night and on the weekends, because I was just working 24/7, right? With those jobs, I made more money than with my studio job, with which I spent most of my time, right? Like 40, 50, 60-hour weeks plus commuting and all that stuff. And then I was like, okay, it makes no sense to continue working in a studio. Like just financially, right? It makes no sense, because when you free yourself up from that daily grind, you have way more potential to earn more, to have more free time, to work under your own schedule, to have more flexibility. And I think it also suited me better to be a freelancer, because I'm just out of my own like character. I'm fairly organized. I can work well under deadlines. I can take care of my finances. I take care of my marketing and bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff. So I'm fairly okay with that. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I also wanted to mention that freelancing is not automatically better than an in-studio job. The decision you should make whether you work in studio longer or freelancing is if you're suited to that, if you like it, if it suits your character. Because for a lot of people it doesn't suit, and there's no point in forcing yourself to freelance, right? Yeah.
So when we take in consideration the level of quality of your work, and I mean, the works that we are showing now on the screen are from recent history, but I remember even when you were supposed to be on that first 2 IFCCs that you missed, I remember the quality level of your work was very high. You know, it was when you came to the IFCC, we had like 60 speakers, but if I would compare the quality of the visuals, of the compositions that you do, you would be like among top 5-10 of them. And you know that we really had some really good artists there. And so, and when you say that you're also freelancing a lot, that you were also freelancing a lot while working in a studio, this I see it that the conclusion is that you're like very productive. So
I wouldn't say that, but yeah.
You wouldn't say that, but okay, that's my perspective of things. So I just want to go back to the school a bit. Was there? I mean, how was it there? Were they pushing you, the students, to produce a lot. I know that I know a lot of testimonials from the people who went to the art center in the US. I know that there's like really, you know, like drilling, you know, it's like constant pressure on doing stuff there. So how was it where you went?
Well, it was they take the brute force approach. They just work you to death, and if you survive that, if you resurrect as an art zombie, then good for you. But if not, well, too bad. They kind of go. Their approach is like, what is the worst case scenario that you will encounter during your working life?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take that worst case scenario and apply that every single day during the school. So that means like you sleep like 2 hours a night for an entire year if you want to complete all your assignments.
It's more like come here and join the art special forces.
Yeah, the art army. Yeah. Is that the best way to learn? I don't know. Is it going to give results? Yeah, sure. If you draw like an insane person, you're going to be better after 1 year than you were before. Are you going to be good? Are you going to be ready to join a company after that? For a lot of people in my batch and in the school, the answer is no. The school was FZD school in Singapore, Fengzhou School of Design. So I honestly don't know. Like for me, it worked out in the end. But I think I was already older, right? I was like almost 10 years older than most people in the school. I had working experience. I had a different attitude. I had my own money in it. So I had skin in the game, right? Whereas other people got it paid by their parents. And that really, for me, put the pressure on. Like I had no choice. I was bankrupt after it. So I had no choice but to succeed. I had no choice but to get a job after it. And that really like put the pressure on for me, and I think that helped me. That helped me to I think get out on top. So yeah, it was a brutal boot camp.
Next thing is something that I like to ask everyone, and that has to do with the private personal projects. And just a second, I did some.
Stephen, hello, Stephen. What is he doing there?
Stephen, yeah, that's a visual from the course on the IFCC Academy, the old course. I removed it now. So just let me. I got lost on these slides here, so I just want to find the topics list again. Okay, here it is. So yeah, what I like to ask every guest is about personal projects, because every year, every month, we see more and more artists go publicly with their projects, and I'm also following some of them. I have some of my own as well. We also, some guests here have their own. I know that Darko Darmar, he has a book coming out on Kickstarter. It's Site 44. And what's the situation with you? Are you thinking about publishing a book or something? Have you been working on something like that?
I think about a lot of things, No, it's I have a very difficult relationship with personal projects. First of all, I mean, yes, they are necessary, right? They are absolutely necessary for your own sanity, right? I mean, yes, we are production artists, right? We work for somebody else. We work after somebody else's instructions, but in the end, we're still human. We still bring in some personal part of us into every piece, no matter how run of the mill it is. So, and sometimes we just need to let that out. We need to let our own creativity flow, and just do purely something for ourselves, right? So there is a strong need to do personal projects. So am I listening to that? No, like I'm constantly just flooding myself with like client work and totally burn out and crash, and and then I'll take a break, and then I get up again and start the client work again. I have a lot of ideas for like personal stuff that I want to do. It's not really in the art book kind of thing. It has actually nothing whatsoever to do with my job. And so I don't want to talk about it because it's like, I don't know, it's still in its infancy. So it's what I don't understand a lot of times is when people for their personal projects do exactly the same that they do for their client work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's their choice, right? That wouldn't be enough for me, right?
I guess that's has to do about the perspective on what you're doing for clients and how do you like it or don't like it. Because I'm sure, when people see, or when many people see your client work, they would say, wow, he's living his dream, and of course they think, yeah, this is what he wants to do all the time. And that's maybe not the case.
No. Actually, you're right on that. It's not that I hate it, but I came into this industry and I had it because of a passion to create, and I grew up with like the old Star Wars, right? Not even the prequels or anything. I grew up with like Episode 4, 5, 6, and Indiana Jones and Alien and Terminator, and that is kind of what got me into this industry and what I wanted to work on new things. But you know how these days every franchise I grew up with is just getting raped.
Yeah.
Every single time.
There's been a lot of talk about it recently, and I myself, I'm trying not to get into that discussion. Yeah.
But let's not call any projects names here, right? It's just well, I fell right into that, and for me it's not enjoyable. So I'm actually quite happy right now that I'm.
I just want to stop you a second. Sorry, I apologize, but for younger people here, the films that you're talking about, and the time that you're talking about, some of it has been presented in a this famous Netflix series, Stranger Things. When
Jesus,
you see they watch those films, and so that was the time when, for example, you have this film, Back to the Future, when you went to the cinema, and then you see like a car that floats, that flies,
it's amazing,
and right? Everyone's reaction in the cinema is, wow,
Yeah.
How did they do that? It was the thing. It was something that would make you wanna try and do something like that. And work for the
exactly
studio,
right. But so what I wanted to get at is actually, what did I want to get at? Well, so that I had that dream, right? So I was like, in the beginning of my career, I was like, idealistically saying, oh, I want to work on Star Wars. And funny enough that 4 years later that actually happened. Mm-hmm. And so I worked on Rogue One, right, which indirectly, that more or less is Star Wars, right? And the work was like, the people I worked with were fantastic, right? They were like, you can't say that it's not fun to work with Duck Chang. You can't say it's not fun to work with like Ryan Church and John Park and all these people. But I think it was one of the most underwhelming experiences in my life, because it's like, I don't know, it's a bit like Christmas. It's like you really like look forward to it before, but then when it's there, you're kind of like, I got a couple of socks again. So because the work, before you work on it, it's like the biggest thing you ever imagine. But then you actually work on it, and it's like, well, it's a job, right? It's like you deliver on deadlines, and the next day you do another thing, and then it's the usual like grind on movies these days, that you never have enough time to really think about and finish anything. So it's, and then the thing is though, right? People have that dream, but then once you reach it, what's next, right? So that's one thing I actually rarely thought about while I was dreaming about Star Wars, right? So what's next? What comes after that? I think the answer for that is like just doing my own thing, whatever it is. Not having to work for somebody. I think the dream right now is not having to work for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And for freelance, like you're not changing anything at all, to be honest, versus working in a studio, because you still work for a client. And
you're probably working more hours a day, just that you don't want to admit it to yourself.
Oh, I work. Yeah. I still work long hours, which is ludicrous. That we have to work long hours in this industry, even though maybe you want to move on with your life, right? But the industry doesn't kind of allow that, which is a shame. But yeah, that's a different conversation, I think, to have about what's wrong in this industry. Yeah. Well, but so like, yeah, I kind of got a bit disillusioned, honestly, with movies and video games. I don't play video games anymore. I just don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, Death Stranding looks cool, but do I have 45 hours to sink into that game? No. Do I play 100 hours of Red Dead Redemption 2? No. Do they look cool? Yeah, sure. Looking at the movies that come out, like I had a string of movies that I worked on, and every single one of them turned out to be a terrible, terrible movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, you're not supposed to, but it's better if you're not attached to the work you do. It's really better if you're not attached. But you can't help but sitting through a bad movie, and then you see your name in the credits, and you're like, I helped make this crap thing.
Yeah, your grandparents will see that.
Yeah, exactly, and they're gonna be like, no, not my grandparents. You mean my grandkids?
Grandkids, that's right. Sorry.
They're gonna be like, grandpa sucks so bad.
We talked about Back to the Future, so who knows?
Yeah. Right?
So, what I wanted to ask, we're slowly getting into this business topic, which is more related to your personal projects that you do, for money, or but at the same time to help others, to improve. So, and before we started streaming, I said to Jan that maybe my favorite part of my career was when I was doing few of the workshops ZBrush workshops, teaching younger folks how to use the tool. And I'm saying that because back then I was teaching them how to do stuff by showing them how I do it on my own projects, on my own art, and this seemed like a win-win situation for me, because I don't think I ever even wanted to work on a films, or I didn't want to work for games, but I never wanted to work for films, and I just always wanted to do my own stuff, and so when we come to this topic of doing business, producing content and selling it, you have already have a lot of it to offer through ArtStation and other platforms, and did mostly educational stuff. You also did a course, if I remember correctly, for the Learn Squared, if I'm right.
Yeah.
And so is this closer to your maybe final goal? For example, are you doing visuals from your heart? Something that you really would do for yourself, and then teaching others, based on that project, those visuals, or what's your perspective on that?
Well, it's getting in the direction of doing what I want, but it's not quite there yet. I see it as a stepping stone. Well, the idea for it, I tried doing some gumroads like way back, like 5-6 years ago when it first started, and I didn't really follow through with it. Well, the idea or the incentive came from the realization that, and the lots of talks, lots of conversations I had with friends who are way longer in the industry than I was, that the situation of you having to chase the client and constantly have to self-promote and everything will never go away. Even after 15-20 years in this industry, you will not have steady work. There will be patches of time where you just don't have anything, and your income will forever be unstable. It's just the nature of freelance, right? It's just how it's gonna be. So I was looking for ways to bring at least a tad of stability into it, or at least a diversification of income streams. Now it's only a very slight diversification, because the money comes still in through some kind of art, design related or industry related source, right? A proper diversification would be if I have money coming in through like stock investment or like property and that kind of stuff. So, but I was at least looking for a way to get the load off, like get some kind of get the pressure of having to always have clients, because depending on what kind of person you are, you either like client work or you don't. So I was looking for a way, how can I generate different kinds of money, different kinds of income streams, right? And of course, I did not do anything new, right? Tons of people are doing tutorials, tons of people are selling other kind of stuff like photo packs or whatever, right? But at least I thought I could add something with something that I'm good at, which is, I think, consistency. I see a lot of people start doing Patreons or start doing this kind of thing, and they kind of like drop off after a while. But I think, you have to kind of run this thing for the long term to get anywhere, and not just run after fads, right? So I started doing this thing with Learn Squared that kind of came out of nowhere. So they asked me to do a course, and that was kind of like the first time I was like, oh, okay, maybe I learned more things now after these couple of years after I released my first Gumroads, that maybe I have something new to share, right? So I did a course for them, and it went okay. And after that, I got some opportunities to teach at different schools in the region here. So I taught at some schools in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur, like actual classes with real students, real people sitting in front of them and doing a demo, which is incredibly hard. So I did that, and I'm still doing that, which was another income stream, right? So, and then I thought, hey, I can do my own thing. I think I have enough material that I can make up something for at least 6 months, right? And then that's when I just decided to just do it. And it's been okay so far, right? It's for the long term. I'm quite surprised that despite my very meager social media following, I'm still able to have a lot more patrons and customers than I think a lot of other people with massive followings. So I was a bit surprised at that, but it's going okay.
Is this related to the recommendations you got from your previous students, or
No.
do you think it has to do something with the end product that you deliver, or I mean the visuals that promote certain
Okay.
course or whatever? I'm talking about the thing that you offer on the market.
Okay. So like how I think about the content, is it?
Yeah, I'm asking like because you said like that you maybe have the better results than others who have much more followers.
Oh, that one. I honestly don't know. Like I'm a big fan of numbers, so I'm always looking at how the numbers vary from month to month, which tutorial has generates more interest than others, and honestly, I'm a bit clueless right now as to why certain things are working and why others don't. But what I realized is that it's the best thing for me to just follow whatever I think is best. I followed some there was some like questions, like some requests from people before about what kind of tutorials I should do, and I kind of followed that for a while, and it turned out to be the worst decision financially and creatively for me to do that. So I stopped listening to them. I mean, that's maybe sorry for the people who asked, but I'm not going to listen to them. I'm going to do whatever I think I want to do, because that was the second part of the incentive of what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do this. Because again, I was so full of like client work and I had no time, and I was just like, okay, I don't want to work anymore. At the end of the day, I want to rest, right? And but now with this Patreon, I deliberately set it to be released on a monthly basis, because I wanted to force myself to generate images that I can upload like more or less right away, and that help to promote myself and the stuff I'm selling, right? And it's kind of like it's not quite there where I want it yet, and it's only a stepping stone for like being proper creatively fulfilling stuff that I want to do, because that's probably going to be a lot more weird and unpopular, I don't know. But so I'm trying to find a middle way between stuff I like to do and stuff that's useful for people, that they can learn something, and that they can actually use in a production environment, right? So it kind of needs to fit that balance. And again, it's like I'm not succeeding with that every time. It's a struggle, and I'm trying every month to get out something that fits into all these categories. But you know how it goes. Every month I get another chance to try something, and I think in that sense it has really helped me get a little bit more balance. I mean, it gets tough when there's too much client work and you still want to not disappoint your patrons. So it gets sometimes incredibly tough to finish everything in time. But you know, I committed to this, and I want to keep at it for the foreseeable future, and to really build myself something up. But the thing is, right, you asked me if that's like the end goal, if that's the thing I want to really do, and it's not, right? Maybe my Patreon will change over time into something different, into something other than tutorials, because I don't want to make tutorials until I die, right? Nobody wants to do that. There's going to be a limit to stuff, to how much I can share.
Bob Ross wanted to do it until he dies.
Yeah. But you know, but who knows what it's going to morph into? Maybe at some point, Patreon will not be the perfect platform for that kind of content anymore. Maybe Gumroad will not be. Maybe there will be a time when I'm going to move everything to YouTube, or I don't know, some kind of different. I'll become an influencer. You know, that's the plan. Yeah. I become a super famous influencer.
You already are, man.
What do you mean? Like I look at other people, right? I look at things like that other people built up, like Ross Tran or whatever. Yeah. Incredibly, like the thing is, right? I mean, I can say that, but I don't like his art, but that's totally fine, right? It's not something I personally look at. He's incredibly skilled though, and he has an incredibly good idea on what he's selling, or actually like indirectly selling, not selling directly, right? But he is truly somebody I look at from a business perspective and think like, wow, that's really, really cool, right? He has like 1 million followers here, 1 million there. It stops being a product that people can actually learn from, right? It becomes more entertainment, which is
that's right.
which is totally cool, right? I'm not saying that.
But that's not something that you're after.
I don't know. Maybe not now. Maybe I will. I don't know, right? It's the thing is, I don't. Maybe I will be after something that does not exist yet, right?
Of course.
But at this point, right now, I'm not too sure, right?
I mean, it's really hard to predict how the social media that we're so dependent on, how it will develop.
You can't predict. You can't predict, right? Russ Tran did not say like, I'm going to be this kind of guy and I'm going to have this many followers. He just said like, I want to do this. Let's see where this goes. Maybe it fails, maybe not, right? That is the right approach to go.
But
it's not the right.
Maybe that's the initial recipe. So first of all, you have to, do what you want to do and not just think about it.
Exactly. You're right. There's a certain element where you have to switch off the thinking part. Of course, I mean, the thing is though, right? It's completely, utterly irresponsible, especially if you. I know there's many people that talk to me that talk about career change, that talk about wanting to do something different, that are already a bit older, that have kids, that have other responsibilities, right? And it would be utterly irresponsible to say, just follow your heart, right? I see that. I think that's one of the major problems that exists right now, that a lot of people who are incredibly successful, they say things like, oh, follow your heart, do whatever you like. That is complete and utterly, I think, useless advice. I mean, I know where they're coming from because that's how they got successful. But the thing is, they don't know any other way, right? It cannot be taken as the way to learn, as the way to go. It's not how it works. Cool, that's how they got famous, by doing whatever they wanted. But you also have to realize that it just so happens to be that their taste in what they do happens to match very well what people like to see. So the advice becomes useless when you like to draw things that are not mainstream. So that it's a bit of a conundrum here where you have to be very careful what you listen to. And you also, as an influencer, if you have 1 million followers, I think there's a certain responsibility in really thinking about what you tell your followers to do, right? So, and art is a very emotionally charged career. And a lot of people just take that as like, this is the way, like, I need to follow my heart and I'm going to be poor and it doesn't work and I'm going to give up and that kind of things, right?
This definitely doesn't work in a capitalism because you just have to, I mean, I guess the tricky part of it is that you have to make money, and then you wanna
let's talk about money,
and you wanna make that money by doing something that you like, and then you have to sell that to someone. And it's very hard to say I'm doing this for the money, because of course, first of all, you're not doing it just for the money, but all of us want to sell something, to learn something, of course, either a service, either a final product. And so I think that it's really important to be really honest about it. I'm not saying that you have to put this sticker on your product saying I'm doing this for the money, but you should you should also put a sticker that says I just want to help you,
Let's rephrase that, right? So there's a lot of misunderstandings in there, a lot of prejudice, but yes, the basic thing is that our economy, our society works on money. Right, so we need to make money to survive. We cannot just be doing stuff for free or do whatever we like and not care about it. Right, so you're very right in saying that. It's kind of like, you have to make a certain amount of money to survive, right? So being completely blind to the money part is not good, and especially right, if you want to work in entertainment is one of the most money grabbing industries of all, right? I mean, we say like, oh, bankers are bad, but come on, movie executives, I mean, what we currently see in cinemas, it's all about the money. So there is no such thing as like selling out or doing it for the money. That does not exist, and not in this industry, right? Not even art, like fine art. It's all about the money. It's all about who's the best, who's the most famous, who sells the most millions, right? So there's no such thing as like selling out or something like that, right? It really does not exist, right? Like you said, like, oh, doing it for the money, right? Of course, like everything we basically do is for money. No, everybody wants to sell something. Everybody wants to, I don't know, be famous or whatever. I think what you have to keep in check though is that, how we can rephrase it is that yes, we need to make money and we need to make a living and we need to do something with our time, so we don't get too bored and think about death all the time. So let's try to marry those things together, right? Let's marry the I want to do what I like doing, or kind of what I don't mind doing, and let's try to make a decent amount of money with it, right? And that's really where I think we need to see what we can do, right? It's not always a good idea to work for companies, and it's not always a good idea to freelance, and I think it's about finding that exact thing, or every artist, because we have that incredible power to tell stories and to inspire people. We should find something that we really love doing and that we really like to express with our art. But at the same time, we need to be smart about and think about the best way that we can sell that to the masses. And we need to find a product that people would like to spend money on, right? And that I think is different for everybody. Some people really love working for a company and help to craft big video games, and they love doing it, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? Other people really want to, I don't know, draw children's comic books, right? And bring their stories and their joy that they have while drawing it to the kids who read it. And there can be so many things in between, right? I mean, some people like to draw pinup girls, and then, right? I mean, I hope they really love it, right? It generates an insane amount of money. And so I'm always hoping that the person who does it, no matter how derivative or how repetitive it is, that the person who's doing it is doing it because they like doing it. If they don't do it because they love it, I think then there's a kind of a mismatch, right? And then you very slowly get unhappy, no matter how much money you make. Because I think the whole happiness thing is not, I mean, it's not tied to money, but I mean, chances are that if you have a lot of money, your chances to be happier, I think, are a lot higher. Yeah.
Are you taking care of your own marketing? Do you think about it? Do you, for example, collect people's emails in a
yeah, and I'm selling them to anybody wants to buy it?
No, I didn't mean that, yeah. Of course.
Highest bidder here.
Do you have like a newsletter or?
No. Yes, I do everything myself. I don't have anybody hired. My wife is not doing my marketing or answering my emails. It's all me, and it sometimes gets way too much. I'm still in the infancy when it comes to marketing. I'm barely getting by. I don't have enough time to focus on what I really need to be doing. I'm trying to upload something almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still very basic.
You have Instagram, right?
I have Instagram. I'm pretty much on all social networks, and I'm trying to figure out how
Twitter as well.
how to work at them. Yeah, Twitter everywhere.
And you post to all of them
All
daily.
of them, pretty much every day. The thing is, right? I have no idea, and I don't think anybody knows what works best and which network. Like people ask me, like, "Oh, where should I go? What should I do? Like, what works best on ArtStation?" Like, I have no idea, and I don't think anybody does.
I guess that the really good artworks work the best.
Yeah, but the thing is, not everything works well on all platforms. Like landscape art does not work on Instagram, or not very well. What works on Instagram are like little doodles, like little characters, stuff that has poppy colors, is bright, because Instagram is pretty much exclusively watched on a tiny screen. So like something can generate 10,000 views on 10,000 likes on Instagram versus, I don't know, 50 on ArtStation. And the same way, something can generate 5,000 likes on ArtStation and only 10 on Instagram. So there's only a very little overlap, right? Everything needs to be reframed, redone for the different platforms, something which I don't do. I'm too lazy. I should be doing more targeted stuff to really leverage that. But the thing is, right? People are concerned about how many likes they get, how many followers they have, and companies kind of respond to that as well, right? They want to get famous people, they want to get people with lots of followers, with influencers or whatever, to sell products for them, right? Then you post it up and you post like Wacom tablets that Wacom sent you or whatever. I have no idea. But rather when you build your brand, your own thing, what you should be concerned about is the quality of your followers, not only the quantity, but also the quality. Like I said before, there are some people who have 6-figure followers on Instagram, and when they try to do a Patreon, they have like 2 paying people. So there is certainly something to be said about knowing and understanding what kind of people are following you. And of course, with like 200,000 followers, like how can you keep any track on who's following you, right? But I think it's about trying your best to engage with them. I mean, if you have 200 comments on every image, then you cannot respond anymore, right? I mean, it's impossible. Of course. But that's if you want to be famous, that's what it is, right? I mean, I honestly do not know the magic recipe. I don't know what's best. I just do everything, and then I hope like it works out, right? There are other people like that don't do anything online, but they are in front of people, and they are very successful with that. So. There can also be something set for events like yours that you organize, right? Not to, I mean, I don't want to make advertising here for IFCC, right?
Yeah.
Not that people in the stream, I mean, yeah, you wish, right? No, if you go to events, right, it's good to be there, right? The thing that I think you should do is that, especially in today's time when there are so many people, like you refresh ArtStation and every minute there's like new stuff and it's amazing. What you have to do is that you stay in people's minds consistently, that you always pop up somewhere, right? That people are always reminded of you, that they should hire you, that they should buy your stuff. And that's, I think, one of the key things that you should try to do, that you're always there, right? I mean, there's other people who not so regularly post, but then they post something that is of more that has more impact, and then they kind of get a couple of jobs from that, and then they disappear for a couple of months again, and then they upload something massive again, right? I mean, which one is better? I don't know. Like, and also, what is the measurement of what is better, right? Is it about the quality of the art? Is it about the income that it generates in the end? I don't know, right? It's really up to your own, right? There are famous people who have fantastic art that don't make very much money. And also the other way around, there's people who never do anything and they always have jobs, right? So I don't know, what is the magic thing? Like, nobody knows, right? Everybody's going their own way, and everybody only really knows how they got to be where they are, right?
Anybody?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we talk a bit about your freelancing and, for example, can you describe one gig? How does it go? Like a representative contacts you, and you sign an NDA or something, and you start working. So just for those who are maybe thinking about doing, leaving their jobs in studios and going freelance, what are the challenges there? You said like never ever miss a deadline and that kind of stuff. So how is it working for you? And did it ever happen that you take too much on you, or
always? Well, there's a lot of things to be said. Yeah, I mean, it's a scary thing. Like, I was stupid enough to jump into freelance right before Thanksgiving. So I had like no jobs for the first couple of months because like Thanksgiving and Christmas and nobody works, right? So good on me. Yeah, it's usually the way that somebody contacts me, whether it's a recruiter, an art director, somebody, I don't know, some kind of outsourcing art director that want to work with me, and then NDA signed, contract signed. Very important contract. Don't start work before you have a contract. Never, ever. And then you just start the work, and then you hope it all goes well, and then you send them an invoice, and then hopefully within the time frame that is stipulated in the contract, you get your money. That's really how it works all the time. The thing is, right, I wish there was any kind of certainty where and when the jobs come from. It usually goes like this, that for 2 months you have absolute nothing. No jobs, nothing whatsoever. And then suddenly you get 3 requests within 2 days. And you say yes to everything, because even though the company says, oh, we want to hire you, like, that does not mean they want to hire you. That means probably they send 10 or 20 emails to all sorts of artists, and whoever has the lowest bid gets the job. And then, so you're kind of forced to say yes to everything, because you never know where it ends up. And then, well, if you're lucky, then you have 3 jobs and you totally screwed yourself, because you have suddenly no time anymore at all for anything other than work. And usually that's how it went for me for the last 6-7 years. And it has never ever changed. So it's always utter chaos, and ranging from absolute 0 to like 3 jobs at the same time. That's usually how it goes.
So when it comes to signing contracts and getting paid and all these money related things, from my perspective and from my experience, the bigger the company is, the bigger the studio is, the less space you have to add your demands. So these companies already have their way of doing things, so it's for you to adapt. While for smaller clients, smaller studios, you have some space, some room to put your demands in front. For example, I want to be paid like every 2 weeks or something like that, So can you describe a bit how it goes, how it really goes with these bigger studios? What's the standard,
Oh yeah, well, that's it. I think the standards depend on the country it's in. From there, it's pretty similar actually, depending on if it's in the US company, UK company. But overall, it's fine. I mean, like you said, big companies means you can't dictate Disney what's in the contract. That's not going to happen. And usually the bigger the company, the more strict the contract, and also often the pay is lower for some reason. Yeah, you would think with bigger budgets there's higher pay for you, but that's unfortunately not how it goes. And usually it's also longer payment schedules. Like you said, they have their own payroll, and you need to follow that. There's no room for some poor person in finance to like make an exception for you just to like wire you some money whenever you want to have it. You follow the exact same structure as everybody else, and that sometimes means you have to wait for your money 2 months or whatever. So it's tricky, right? But usually what you have to expect these days is that you get paid and you can never ever show your work, not even after it's released. It's getting more and more standard for the big studios that they keep your work forever locked away. So even though it's released, you can never show it. Mm-hmm. The movie is released, you can never show it. And that is quickly becoming the norm, which is really bad. And the thing is, only people who have major, like the really big guys, like the really famous guys, they have the power to renegotiate these terms. Mm-hmm. And to stuff. And also, if you're in the Art Directors Guild and the union, the movie union in America, mm-hmm. you have you're allowed to upload some stuff, I think. But for people like us that are far away, that are not in the union, there's really no chance of changing anything. Mm-hmm. So you have to basically expect that you do the work and it's never going to be shown again. That should be a standard expectation, honestly, these days, which is quite sad. But yeah, that's the way it is.
It sucks. I wouldn't say sucks.
But like, that's what it is, right? The work, as soon as your work is done, you got paid, and work is no longer yours. Mm-hmm. You have no copyright. You can put your name on it. You can put it on Facebook, and then hopefully nobody asks you to take it down. Mm-hmm. But that's what it is. Yeah, but if anything, if you're unsure about like the 20-page document that Disney just sent you, there by all means hire a lawyer, hire an accountant to look over it. If you're not sure, right? If you're not so, if maybe English is not your first language, if you're not so good in English, but definitely get it looked over.
Okay, let me see if we have a question here, and we do have a question.
There's a lot of questions.
Oh, really? I usually pay attention to it, but I just
you can't say that on live stream.
Yeah, I did pay attention, guys. Sorry. So, question from Michael van den Heuvel. What are your thoughts on people charging too little for their work, which essentially give clients the wrong idea what an honest wage is? And after you answer this, I'll add something. So
good. Wow, it's a good question. It's also a very difficult question, right? Because we work, this job particularly is global, right? So whatever an honest wage is can be very different for somebody living in San Francisco, and can be very different for somebody living in Split, right? It's very different, right? What they think a good wage is and what actually supports their living standard, right? So how do we go about that, right? And I usually say, like, you need to go not after, you can't calculate your wage based on where you live. Not in this industry. It doesn't work like that. You cannot say that, I need this, I need X amount for my house, I need X amount for my car and for my food, and that's how much I should charge. You don't do that. You need to check, you need to find out what the average wage for somebody of your experience level is in the country that the company is. So usually, let's say like UK versus US in the movie industry, US is a bit higher, UK is a bit lower, right? But you cannot go into either of these markets and apply your, Croatia standards onto them, because when you do that, you're undermining the market. They suddenly see that this incredibly talented guy from Croatia is charging like 1/10 what somebody here around the corner would charge. And that ruins you, and it ruins the industry as a whole if enough people do that. So
I would just like
the
to.
thing is, right?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I'm not. I'm sorry. Let me just finish it up.
I apologize.
Yes, there's always the pressure. There's always the fear that, oh, am I charging too much? Am I? Is somebody else going to get the job who's underbidding me? And the answer to that, yes, somebody else would underbid you. But the question is, like, you need to set some standards in how you value your time and what makes sense for you to charge based on your experience level and the company you work for. And it can't be an arbitrary decision. It needs to be a well-researched, informed decision that you need to make. Yes, a lot of times you will lose out. You will not get the job. But you will never know if it's really because somebody else was cheaper. I mean, some clients will tell you, like, oh, the other guy's cheaper. And I usually say, like, fine, and go with him. You always need to put yourself in a position of, I don't need this job. The client, you need me. You want me, right? I don't need you. And you put yourself, and then how you get into this position is twofold, right? One of it is just purely changing your mindset. You don't want to be the McDonald's, right? You don't want to be the fast food kind of cheap, unhealthy kind of art machine, right? You want to be a well-respected, like gourmet burger kind of guy, who can charge $20 for a burger, instead of $2. So the other part of getting there is that you are prudent with your financials. You make sure that you don't splurge on the latest iPhone or play video games and buy yourself a PlayStation or whatever, if you can barely afford to pay your rent. There are priorities that you need to look after, and you should always, with freelancing, you should save like 10 times as much as somebody who's in a stable job. So that's the other part, that you make sure that you're financially so stable that you do not have to undervalue. You don't have to sell your art for cheap, right? And that's easier said than done, and that means a lot of sacrifice often. But honestly, if you want to make a freelance design art career working, then you have to go through periods like that. You wanted to add something?
Yes. So this, what you were just talking about, the topic that we have opened, it's a big topic. It's a big thing, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, not just lately, but for past, I don't know, like 5-6 years. And I remember when when I myself wanted to try working for, I don't know, like US companies, and I didn't have a good enough portfolio for where I was aiming at, but I got in contact with a lot of like US artists, and I remember I exchanged few messages. I don't remember if I think it was email. I got in contact with a really well-known character artist or character designer or creature designer, Carlos Huante, and we exchanged few emails. I tried not to be too pushy, but I really wanted to find better clients, and then he told me, like in short, he told me like you have like a wrong perspective. The guys here in the US are like moving from Hollywood, to, I don't know, Canada to work for, I don't know, like game studios and that kind of stuff, because they're losing their jobs because of the guys from, Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, and so on. And so, I never forgot that, and when we started building or rebuilding our platforms, and the last one is the bunica.org, I wanted to add this option to mark your price, define your price, your daily rate. It's more like a range, so but what we did here, we don't allow anyone to put lower daily rate than, I don't know, like $100, 100 euros. And this is what I said before. We wanted to keep the level of the quality high on this website, just because of course, clients can get in contact with you any way they want. They can search for your email or your personal website. But we wanted to build something that you as an artist, for example, if you're started negotiating about the price with the client, that you can, say, okay, go to this website, check the profiles, and you will see daily rates there, So this might help or may not help in some cases, but it can send a message to clients that even internationally, you won't find an artist, or you shouldn't look for an artist that's like 10 times cheaper, because you have to pay for the quality you're after. You can get lower price, of course. This is still just a test. Of course, it's not working at the moment as it should, but I remember there was this project that kind of died, which was I think it was called I kind of forgot, but the guys who were running it, they were fighting about this unpopular changes that were happening, especially with the jobs for illustrators for what's the name of the card game? Oh, I'm totally
Magic or what?
Yeah, Magic the Gathering and some other, because they were getting paid lower, losing some of their rights and so on. So I think the name was Pact or something like that, where those guys were offering for free, examples of the contracts, and they were kind of trying to suggest, to US, mostly US artists, how to, negotiate the price with the clients and so on. So this all got me thinking, that's what I just wanted to add there to what you were saying, So because it doesn't make sense, like if I as an artist were like triggered or impressed by works of some famous artist who did something for film, 10 years ago. I don't want to be the guy who's taking his jobs and jobs of all of his colleagues. And on the long run, this can only be if the service, if the prices kind of equal, become similar, globally. And I think this will happen in 5 or 10 years from now, because the market is global, especially with the internet. And I think that guys from the East, us Asians, will start, charging more for their work.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if we have any more.
I think there were some questions like up further up there.
Yeah, let's see. Of course, so guys, if you have any questions, feel free to post them. So I know that Darko asked about what is most important thing for marketing, but I think we covered it. Just a second. Yeah, Art Pact, Lazar says. Yeah, it was Art Pact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It was Art Pact.
I was never really in that illustration game.
Yeah,
So
it's a different,
I
it's
don't
a
know.
different field, but you know, at some point they started, you know, taking away some rights from them. I mean, it's like illustrations for the Magic the Gathering and other card games. It's a huge thing, you know, like a lot of people are doing it, and so I know that there were some unpopular changes with how they can promote their work, and for example, also they have their events, you know, where they meet all these illustrators, and so I hear, you know, that there have been some big changes there as well, you know. So like negative stuff, but you know, I don't want to talk about it here, but so they have their problems as well. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the questions here. There was Ryan asking, production art is great fun, but ultimately often quite shallow. For deeper creative satisfaction, what do you do? I think that's easy, personal work. Just do whatever really interests you on a personal level. Completely, like, just don't think about anything money related, and do that. What would you do if money doesn't play any role in it? I think that's what you should do for creative satisfaction. And then he was asking, as a follow-up, how could concept artists avoid being derivative when there's so much hunger for what already exists? Yep, that's the self-referential referencing. Yeah, that's the crux of it all. How to stay creative in a field that is very much uncreative. It's kind of like if you work as a production design, if you work in production art, you just have to do that. You have to try and infuse at least a little bit of what is you into the work you do, right? But of course, ultimately, the client dictates what you draw. So again, the same answer to before. Like, you need to let out your personal work and hope that at some point somebody picks it up or you figure out a way how to bring your work to the world, and you actually get paid for it. You make a living, right? That is the best. Like to fight against this derivativeness in today's media is just to do your own thing and figure out a way how to like change it, right? Change that generic designs that are out there. I think these days, if you have something cool, if you can share that with the world and can somehow bring that to the market, then there is an appetite for it. There's an appetite for anything that is good, right? And then there was John asking, did I like working at Star Citizen? I never worked in the studio. I only worked as a freelancer, and it was always fun. I worked with them on and off for the last 6 years. I still work for them once in a while. So yeah, it's always fun. It's a massive thing. I mean, who doesn't like spaceships, right? So it's always been fun with them. And they're really, really nice guys. I usually work with the UK office, the Foundry 42, and they're really, really nice guys.
I think those were like all the questions. Now Marina Ortega, our former attendee,
here.
She's asking about taxes. Do you recommend having an accountant as a freelance, or are you still doing everything by yourself?
I do everything by myself. Do you need an accountant? No. In general, like, is there like a need for one? That really depends on you, I think. Generally, I would say no, but if you're like terrible with numbers, if you open Excel and you start puking and getting rashes, then maybe, yeah, you should get an accountant. It's not that expensive. and maybe they, if you like, especially if you live in a country with really high taxation rates, then maybe you can just have a chat with them, like to see if there's any options, any kind of schemes, incentives for freelancers that can get you in a lower tax bracket, or somehow give you some benefits, right? That's always worth, short of hiring somebody permanently, like just have a chat with somebody to ask about the legal situation in your country, right? But I'm okay with like spreadsheets. I'm okay with like number crunching and that kind of stuff. So I'm doing, and honestly, I don't have that much income, that many clients that I'm in over my head. Then that's not for my case.
What do you use? What kind of what solutions do you use for your invoices and taxes? And are you using some online services, or you
No,
just
I
doing
use,
it on
what
your
is it?
computer? And
Yeah,
like, okay.
I use Numbers, the Excel version of for Mac. That's
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I use. Again, my tax returns are not very complicated, um, so I don't have need for like Quicken or anything else. Um,
I want to ask you about your incomes, but
how dare you?
yeah, how dare I? But what are the average costs of living there? I mean, compared to Germany. Um,
It really depends. I mean, I live in Singapore, right? So for the
yeah.
people that don't know, Singapore is like top 3 most expensive countries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because of car ownership and rent. Um, it's really hard to, like, the thing is, right? If you live in, like, let's say San Francisco, it's just incredibly expensive. It's like the most expensive place you can pretty much live, because everything is so pricey. In Singapore, you do have some options.
Yeah.
You can live the all-out expat lifestyle and live in a fancy condo, a swimming pool, and eat only Western food, drive a fancy car, and then you're gonna have really high expenses. Or you can embrace some of the local stuff. You can live a bit more modest. You can eat local. You can eat some more cheaper local food, because the range for the kind of food you can buy here is very broad. You can get something from a couple of dollars to like hundreds or thousands of dollars, right? So it's really up to you. And the thing is, other countries don't necessarily offer this kind of range. Like, compared to Germany, I can't say, because Germany has so much. Like, you could live in a tiny town and it's really cheap, or you can live like in a really expensive city like Munich, and your expenses would wildly differ, right? So it's hard to put a number on there. It's hard to put a number. But the thing is, I'm here, like, I can make it work. People like there's a concentration of people in San Francisco and Los Angeles who do this kind of work, right? And they can make a living. So this job, without problems, can support you living in an expensive city. And you should live like a king if you like somewhere where it's really cheap to live, to be honest, right? There's no reason why you have to live like a really basic, like really, like, how do I say, like, you do not have to live like really poor as an artist. You do not have to. This industry does support some like comparatively high hourly rates compared to what other people earn.
Okay. I just want to ask. I have a question for you, but I just want to ask everyone here who is listening. Please leave a comment below, good or bad. It doesn't matter. This will help us, to adjust for future streams. So please leave a comment below in the comment section. this is more of a technical question because I will ask it, but it's from Lazar. But we don't cover this kind of topics in this series, in the business of art. But he did mention that he noticed that because I was going through your portfolio on the art station, he noticed that you were using Blender as well, and which is cool because it also has to do with business because it's a different business model for related to the software itself. It's not the commercial software, so and it's getting better and better. So more and more people are getting into CG, and 3D and that kind of stuff. So you can mention Blender a bit.
I don't want to like make advertising for Blender. The people are so hung up on which program to use, and I just cannot understand. Like seriously, like people ask me stuff like, "Oh, I'm using Cinema 4D. Should I use Blender now?" And I'm like, why would you? Like it's you hopefully paid for a $3,500 program. And now you want to change to a free one just because of some like internet fad or what? I really have no idea. People are still pursuing, I think, especially in 3D, that magic button that does everything for you, and they totally forget all the fundamentals of image making that you need to know. Otherwise, you just cannot make good images. An application will not do it for you. No matter what displacement, blah, 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 you're going to use, it's not going to make your images better if you do not understand how images work. For me personally, why did I use Modo? Because I don't know. I was using Maya, I was using Max before. I hated them. Modo seemed quite okay. I used it for many years, but I kind of got tired of it, and for my own satisfaction, I need to learn something new once in a while. And sometimes learning a new application can trigger that refreshed approach to image making. And to be honest, Modo has fantastic modeling tools. And I think the modeling in Modo is still better than in Blender. Blender is by far, I think, not the best modeling tool, just for me personally, right? Yes, on a very basic level, Blender is free, Modo costs money. Yeah, that's what it is. But it really should be about your personal thing. Like if you're comfortable in Modo, just use Modo. I mean, there's no reason not to use it. For me, what changed my mind about using Blender is that it's free, but it's fine. I'm used to paying for my software, and I've always done that, except for when I pirated Photoshop in '95 or whatever.
No, you didn't.
I hope Adobe won't haunt me for that, but that's how we all got into Photoshop, right? But
I think that was a part of their marketing plan.
What irked me about Modo the most was that maybe Foundry is listening. Maybe they can answer that. Whenever I needed to figure out something in Modo, I just could not find it online. Like I was Googling it and I would find some article that was abandoned 5 years ago, and I just for the life of me could not figure out how to do some things in Modo. Like I had no idea. And the thing with Blender is that the community is so strong that whatever problem you have, it's actually so easy to figure it out by yourself, or you can just Google it and within 5 minutes you have the solution, or even within 1 minute you have the solution for what you need to do. So that is very refreshing, that Blender's approach to how the program is laid out, how the UI is laid out, that it's very common sense, that you can actually figure things out by yourself. And that was something completely like mind-blowing to me when it comes to a 3D app, because pretty much no other 3D app is like that. They all have this weird thing that I don't know, they need to hide everything away or make everything insanely complicated so that only after studying it for 5 years you are like in the in the know. You're like the Maya professional, and then you can get a certificate or whatever nonsense, right? But with Blender, it's kind of like leveling the playing field. I mean, Blender still doesn't do awesome shit for you. You still need to know the fundamentals, right? So that's I just want to say that. And I don't think Blender is necessarily that mind blowing in terms of like all the functions it offers. I think it's just better laid out. And the only killer feature though that I love using more than anything else is Eevee. Like having everything in real time, even though it doesn't look as good as a ray tracer, it's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, I think that Marina has another question, but I would avoid answering it because I just wanna, stick to the rules that this is the stream about business. But Jan has a lot of tutorials available, both from technical point of view, like how to use software, to what you mentioned, how images work, composition, and that kind of stuff. So go and check what he has to offer. Yeah, that's it. I think we're done. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope, Jan, that it wasn't too much.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
I think it was under 2 hours, like 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Barely,
I think so.
Barely.
Yes, thanks for joining. Everyone, thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting us. Those who are coming to the event in May to learn, from other top artists. Thanks for coming. Thanks for buying tickets, because you are our sponsors. And that's it. If you have anything else to add, please do. Jan.
Yep.
Yeah,
okay. Well, it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, I was. Yeah, I mean, like, buy all my shit right now. Everything. No, if you want to support me, in my journey, feel free to check out my Facebook, Instagram. I have stuff. You can join my Patreon. I have tutorials available on Gumroad, on ArtStation, and I also have a Learn Squared course. So feel free to check that out. Maybe you can put I don't know, is there a link down here? Yeah, there's a link. Yes, very good. The link is down here. And small teaser, I'm going to be on Darko's podcast next week, so maybe you can join that as well. I hope he doesn't mind me spoiling it, since he hasn't announced it yet.
Yeah. Now he has. Now you have.
Now I have, for all the people who are watching here. No, it was great. I'm happy to share some thoughts, and I hope it was helpful for some of you.
Yeah. So I guess for Marina and others, like you will get more information about the process and the development of art pieces and so on that stream.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll get a bit more technical. Yeah.
You mentioned some educational content. I also want to say that on the IFCC Academy website we'll be launching 3 new courses soon, so also stay tuned. I suggest that you just subscribe to our newsletter and you'll get information on time. So yeah, that was it. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Jan. I will stop streaming now, and
okay,
we'll be in touch soon.
Yes. Okay. Bye everyone.
Yeah. Bye.